Welcome to the Leading Conversations podcast, sponsored by the Excel Leadership Network. On each episode, JD Pairing will have conversations with church planting pastors and leaders from around the country. You can learn more about how to connect with Excel at the end of this podcast. Let's join JD now and listen in on this leading conversation.
The wonderful Weston Brown with us all the way from Shreveport, Louisiana. Weston, thanks for being on the Leading Conversations podcast.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Hey, I'd love for us to hear your story. Tell us about just growing up, how you came to Christ, your story of turning to Jesus.
Yeah. I grew up in a small town here in North Louisiana called Minden. It's a town of about 13,000 people, but grew up going to church at what was a pretty large church in that small town. We probably had 1,500 people. And from an early age, just felt drawn to the things that were going on in the church. Just felt a sense of connection with it. I've always loved music. I've always had, I think, some giftings toward playing music, and so pretty early on got recruited to play music in the church, play guitar and piano and drums and all those kinds of things. And I think that was something for me that was a doorway into seeing that any gifts and talents or passions that I might have in my life were to be used for the Lord and for His glory. And so when I was saved when I was 13 or so, was baptized, and by the time I was 15, felt pretty clear that the Lord had called me to pastoral ministry. Felt just a real sense of, my only understanding of that at the time was really preaching, because that was the only thing that I saw pastors do. But when I was 15, I went and sat down with my pastor and said, "Hey, I think God's called me to do what you do." And looking back now, I'm very thankful for a church that was really encouraging to me in those things and affirming, and gave me opportunities to do things that I had no experience doing, and including getting to preach some on like Wednesday nights and things like that as a teenager. So that was really encouraging to me. And so I was ordained when I was 19 and started leading a church that same year. And so I've been a pastor now for 20 years in some form or fashion.
That's amazing. Just listening to people's stories, I'd say more than half of the people have some really rough upbringing. Yours sounds like it was good. Did you ever have a rebellious period or walk away from God at all?
No, but I've been through some difficult seasons. My father abandoned our family when I was a kid. And so, grew up with two younger brothers and a single mom for a period of time, and eventually had a really awesome stepdad that came into my life. But throughout that whole season, and I was young, I was maybe in third grade when that all happened. Throughout that whole season, we were still very involved in the church, and the church was still very much a part of our lives. And so no, I don't know that I've had a rebellious period. I'm a firstborn, and I'm an Enneagram 3. So I want people to be pleased with me and impressed with me. And so anyway, yeah, for better or worse, I knew at a pretty early age what I wanted to do and what I felt like the Lord had called me to do. And I've been very blessed to get to do that for a long time now.
Well, so far we're very pleased, and we're very impressed with you, Wes. What was it like being a pastor at 19? You said you were leading a church at 19.
Yeah. I don't know. I look back at it now and just wonder what were people thinking, because I had a basic just kind of cursory knowledge of the Bible from growing up in the church, but I had no theological training at that point in time, and had never led anything really before. And the first church I pastored, it was a rural church here in North Louisiana. We had maybe 125 people, and many of them were senior adults. And so it was very much trial by fire. My first year in ministry, I did a number of funerals, and I'd barely even been to a funeral in my life at that point. But I suddenly found myself in this place of having to provide pastoral care, but not really fully understanding what that was. The one good thing that I had was I had a few other pastors in the area who, clearly saw my inexperience and immaturity and pulled up alongside me and spent time with me, which was really helpful. But honestly, man, I look back at that season now, and I'm so thankful that there aren't videos out there of me preaching from that phase. That podcasting was not a thing at that time, and I made a lot of mistakes, and thankfully I think had a congregation of people who recognized that I had no experience and was new in all of this, and gave me a lot of grace in that. So, in many ways, it was, it was to some extent my seminary experience before I ever went to seminary was pastoring that church when I was an undergraduate.
Well, I wish that we did have the podcast and the videos just to see what that was like. 19. I mean, good for you. You've been doing this for quite a while.
Yeah. And still love it. It's, it's definitely been a journey. I've been in, a number of different settings from that small church to, we served in very large churches in the Dallas area for a number of years before moving here to Shreveport about 11 years ago. So, I've gotten to, experience a number of different settings and kinds of ministry over the years. And now with planting a church over the last 3 years, that's been a whole new journey. So
what steered you into planting?
Maybe 6 or 7 years ago, I found myself in a church that was not a super healthy church. Had a lot of problems that stemmed from leadership in the past and decisions that had been made in the past, and it just wasn't a healthy situation or place. And for a long time, I had done small groups ministry, and I had gotten to the point where I just didn't really enjoy what I was doing. I didn't really feel like I was functioning as a pastor. Felt like I was more of an event planner for Christian people. And so I was just experiencing, I think, some angst. And we had this, there were a number of things that happened, but one of the things that happened was we had a neighbor who was murdered on our street, and she was not killed on our street, but was killed at work by a coworker. And we didn't know these people at all. We had never met them, even though we had lived a couple doors down from them for a couple of years at that point. And I felt deeply convicted that I just didn't have eyes to see my neighbors as people in need of the gospel. That I was, to some extent, pursuing a career in ministry, but wasn't really living a life of ministry. And so that event was eye-opening for me. I think the Lord used that to awaken me to some extent to the fact that I was just kind of getting in my car every day and going and sitting in a church office and doing just normal church stuff, and yet I've got these neighbors who didn't know Jesus and didn't know me either, or my family. And through that process, we got connected to an organization called Forge America, that was started by a couple guys, Alan Hirsch and Michael Frost. And we went through what at the time was sort of a missional life training program that they had. And so we did this with a hub in a Forge hub in Tyler, Texas, my wife and I. And it was the first time that I think were introduced to missional theology and this idea of, not simply the priesthood of all believers, but that we are all people who are filled with the Holy Spirit and equipped with the gospel message, who are sent out into our world as ambassadors of the kingdom. I knew all of that stuff, but I don't know that I'd ever really seen that in practice, because for all of my time in ministry, I had been in these attractional churches where it wasn't about equipping a missionary force that would then be sent out into the city. It was all about having great events and programs and trying to get the city to come to us. And so that was pretty life altering for us. Just gaining a new perspective on what our lives could look like as missionaries in the place where we lived. And it changed a lot about how we lived and how we interacted with our neighbors. And so it ultimately led me to step away from the position that I was in at that church. And I took a job as executive director of a poverty and human trafficking services organization here in our region. And in the midst of that process, my wife and I had thought maybe the Lord was calling us to plant a church. We really thought that would look more like a house church, more like a very low-key thing. And we definitely felt a sense like that the Lord had called us to do something different than what was represented here in our city, because we have no shortage of churches here in Shreveport, but they all do kind of look the same and function the same to some extent. And so along the way, we got connected with Luke Allen at Covenant Church in Bossier City, and they invited me to come on staff as an elder with a view towards leading a group of people out of that church to plant another church here in Shreveport. We're about 30 minutes apart here where we live, and so we did that in 2016. In addition to the organization I was working with, we came on staff with Covenant Church and began the process of moving towards a church plant. So in 2018, I stepped away from my executive director job, and we devoted ourselves fully to planting.
Well, Luke Allen's the chief operating officer now of Excel. Can you give us some dirt on Luke? You worked with him for 3 years. What can you say to him? And that way we'll tell if he even listens to these podcasts or not. What do you say about Luke?
Man, Luke's the best. I'm just so I'm so thankful for somebody who, man, he let me come into his church that he planted and gave me some leadership responsibilities and gave me a voice with his people, and then he let me take a bunch of them and go start another church. And that's that takes a lot of humility, and so I'm very thankful, because I honestly can't. I'm so in awe of planters who truly start from scratch, who parachute in somewhere and really are creating everything from the ground up. I just didn't. I couldn't envision that for us. I couldn't. I mean, I've had a co-pastor from pretty much day one. I'm not like a lone wolf type person at all. I really wanted a team of people to do this with from the very beginning, and the Lord very graciously provided that in Luke and Covenant Church. So I'm really thankful to him and to them.
Well, that sounds like a great situation for you. And I am still looking for dirt on Luke. Luke is the best. I'd like to get a little leverage with him, though. So if you think of anything, please let me know.
Sure. Yeah.
Before I ask you how it's going, I do know you have 5 girls and a wife. So what is it like living with 5 girls and a wife?
Man, there's just so much talking. There's just so much talking all the time. It's like and our youngest is about 5 months old, but even she's starting to just make noise all the time. So I'm an introvert, so I need space sometimes to zone out or chill out, and I don't get a lot of that these days. But they're great. They're a lot of fun. So
what do you do to take care of yourself in the midst of that?
I get up early. That's not something I've always done, but within the last 3-4 years, that has really become a big part of what is life-giving to me. Like I have to be up at least an hour before everybody else is up, and I've got to have time with the Lord, and just time to charge up, and gather my thoughts. And so that's become a really important thing for me. If I don't get that for some reason, it's going to be a bad day for me. And so it's just, I'm up 4:30, 5 pretty much every day. So.
Well, we will be praying for you in that. Keep being the best husband and dad you can be. Hey, tell us how is it going? You started the church with more of a missional approach. How's it going after a couple of years?
Man, we've been in a really great season this year. Last year was tough, as it was for everybody, I think. And we were blessed in a lot of ways last year. We didn't have nobody left. We didn't have any drama in the way that a lot of places had drama over COVID stuff or just other things going on in our country and world. And so we were blessed in that regard, but we didn't grow at all in 2020. And really, like we had been gathering as a launch team, but we didn't start gathering weekly for worship until October of 2019. So we had only been meeting for about 6 months when we had to, kind of press pause on in-person gatherings for COVID. And so coming into this year, our prayer really was that the Lord would bring us 10 new families, which he had done by probably May or June of this year. And so we've seen a lot of growth for us. We're still a small church, and our goal really is to be strategically small. We would love to be small and multiplicative rather than just grow. We would love to see more churches planted out of our church in the same way that we were able to plant out of another church. And so anyway, but yeah, we're in a much better place now. We really have critical mass. We have another 10 families, that are newer in the pipeline as well. So yeah, this year has been fantastic. Last year was discouraging, but this year has been much better.
I love that term. I don't think I've heard the term multiplicative before. I don't know if you've coined that, but that's a great term, and it would be cool if all of our churches could get there. Hey, let me just end with this. Give us a word of encouragement as leaders. Maybe what would you tell your 19-year-old self, and what would you tell us about leadership?
Yeah, to my 19-year-old self, it would be something in the realm of getting comfortable in your own skin. I think when I look back at 19-year-old me, I was a very young person in positions far beyond his years, and I think I felt a sense of having to put on an air of I've got this, or I know what I'm doing, even though I clearly didn't. And I think a lot of times that came across as arrogance. And there probably was some arrogance there as well, just youthful arrogance. And so for me, I think it would be more, telling myself to pursue humility and be quick to take notice of what I don't know, and be willing to say I don't know. For everyone else, I think that much like we talked about a few minutes ago, it just this staying the course thing. The Lord has really The Lord has really given me a love for just, I think, a classical understanding of pastoral ministry, which isn't organizational leadership. It's really more about being with people and being a spiritual shepherd to people, walking with people in the hard stuff of life, bearing others' burdens. I think now more than at any other point in my time in ministry, I want to be that person. I want to be that kind of leader who can't just can't just put on a good show or run a well-oiled organization, but somebody who really is there to walk with people in the stuff of life. And so I think for anybody who's called to plant, the challenge is so much of our focus and energy and effort goes into the mechanics of making a church organization come together, whether it's fundraising or figuring out your mission plan, or who's with you and who's not with you. But I think the more that we can press into really being with our people as a lead disciple maker, the healthier our churches are going to be in the long run. And so that would be my encouragement to everybody. I think that's the thing that I've learned the most over the last few years and have come to enjoy the most in what we do. So
thank you for sharing that. Thank you for that perspective, and just reminder that it's not all about organizational leadership. It's about taking care of people. So thanks for being with us today, Weston. Really appreciate you. Appreciate you being here.
Yeah. Thank you, JD.
Thanks for joining the Leading Conversations podcast. We hope that you found it both helpful and encouraging. At Excel Leadership Network, our focus is on the church planter rather than the church. If you'd like to find out more about us, visit our webpage at excelnetwork.org. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss any future episodes. See you next time with another Leading Conversation.